Welcome back, everyone, to the Rican Brothers Raidernation podcast for another episode here on episode 12 for the post-game reaction to the Denver Broncos. I'm your host, Nazo, and I got a special guest for another episode, our boy, Rick. What's going on, Rick?
Hey, what's going on, Nazo? How's everybody doing?
Man, we got to be feeling good after that game.
Oh, yeah, you have to.
And man, I just want to give props to you because, you know, as we weren't at the same points, but we were at the same point spread. So I think you and I both hit it right on the head, man. So I got to give you shots out to that because I think we won by 10 and we both predicted a 7-point spread. So, I mean, if we were betting, man, you know, we'd be coming home with the bag. So how you feel about that?
Money. I feel great about that. I mean, you always got to feel good, especially when the team shows up and they actually give you the spread and then some.
Right? Yeah, absolutely, man. And the thing that I was so impressed with was just how the team came together. And sorry again for my voice, guys. I kind of lost it on Sunday because I was yelling my face off. I went to the Raider bar here in Arizona that I've never been to before. One of my buddies actually runs it. And shouts out to Riot House for Sunday. It was a blast. Appreciate you, Sonny. And I was kind of hitting you up, like texting back and forth with you, you know, as shit was going down in the game. And I felt like we were both hype. But
I was
man,
the same between you and your brother. So.
Yeah, dude. And you killed it, man, on offense. I mean, you know, you said, you know, Drake and Edwards. And I mean, I missed on one of mine because I was hoping Jalen Richard came through, which I will say he did come through clutch on that third down that kept our drive going, where we did end up scoring, where he caught that pass to get that first down and it kept the drive going. And, you know, I mean, he's getting kind of like filtered in more offensive snaps. So I figure in the next week to 2 weeks, we'll see him more often. But dude, our man, Brian Edwards, man, those catches he made and the one-handed grab while he had the defender draped on him and then took it, another like 20 yards?
Yeah, it was insane. Like somebody called him, who is it? It was the fourth quarter.
Yeah. I mean,
he doesn't do anything the entire game. It comes fourth quarter and he's like Mr. Clutch.
Man, the dude just shows up. And I think it just goes to show how strong our weapons are, even as you go down the tiers. Because, I mean, we obviously know, like you mentioned last show, you know, Waller's our guy. Then we have Henry Ruggs and Renfro. I think they're kind of in that same tier, but they do different things. And then you kind of have, you know, Edwards and, you know, the other receivers that we do have is the next kind of tier. Because I think Edwards is kind of in his own tier. Like, I don't really think we have somebody who's kind of equivalent to him right now as far as the type of receiver he is. But, man, you nailed it right on the head, man. I just want you to speak to it, too, because, I mean, you called Drake and Edwards having a good game, man. So just give us your thoughts on that.
I just felt like it was time for Drake to have a coming out. And what better chance than, you know, against Denver, where they're probably not going to be thinking about it. They're going to be focusing more on Jacobs.
Yep.
And, you know, Drake did his thing. He had that
I mean, you called Jacobs too, though. So, I mean, technically, I mean, you really hit on everything you said, man. I mean, if I was a bet, man, I'd be like, hey, Rick, I need you to bet me some numbers this week, man. I mean, shit.
Like, sometimes you get lucky. But
hey, you know, I'll take it.
You know, Edwards, I'm just going to start calling him Mr. Fourth Quarter because he'll get one catch the first 3 quarters, and then in the fourth quarter, he's killing it.
Yeah.
And that 51-yard reception was insane.
The thing that I was going to ask you, because I know that you had seen, like, with Edwards, not with Edwards, but with Drake. I mean, you kind of must have had some intuition as far as what play calling that Greg Olsen would call, because I know a lot of people give him shit about it on, you know, his history with the Jaguars. But again, you have to remember this was a guy who was calling plays when Derek Carr was a rookie, and he kind of knows how much he's grown because he's kept in conversation with him, in contact, and he's watched him grow and evolve, and he's been in the system. What was it that kind of led you to make that prediction with Drake, especially since it was a big, like, just gap in usage of him over the past couple of weeks?
It was honestly just a feeling. Like, I felt like that our guys were going to target him because, one, they haven't been using him, so he's going to be healthy. We still had question marks on Jacobs and his ankle and how healthy he was.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're looking at it, Rashard's just coming back.
Mm-hmm.
The only true healthy running back we had was Drake. And I just felt like if they're going to utilize somebody, it was going to be him.
And man, not only a catching touchdown, but also a rushing touchdown.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to be something that's kind of rejuvenating for him after kind of like coming into this season, not having much juice and not really being utilized as much as he said that he was going to be utilized. What was it that you saw with, because I mean, Jacobs was another guy that you said, hey, we need to get some out of this and, keep an eye out for that. I mean, what was it as far as the contributions with Jacobs and Drake that you may have felt like they fed off of each other, and that's what really had, them having this explosive game?
Well, I think it's kind of like when Jacobs, he's the one that asked for Drake to come here.
Yeah.
A lot of people question that, and I think Jacobs realized, like, I need somebody that, can be my lightning to my thunder.
Yeah.
And so, the people kept questioning the relationship between the two. And I think because they're both Bama guys, they're both used to winning, that they're just naturally, oh, you did this? Okay, let me get in there and try to stop that.
Right.
Because Jacobs had that 25-yard screen pass.
Yeah, man, that was a beautiful thing to see, because I remember we were even talking about it, and we'll get into more of the offense throughout the show, but we were talking about how there's the underutilization of these screen passes, man. And here you see, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, we kind of switched from a zone blocking scheme to more of a power blocking scheme, right?
Yeah.
You saw that it was pretty evident on Sunday, but what a burst that screenplay was.
Oh, it was huge.
If Simpson was not in the way, I think Jacobs would have taken it to the house.
That, and that wasn't for that defensive lineman falling on the ground in front of him.
Yeah.
Slowing him down.
Exactly.
But he had open field if it wasn't for that one guy.
Yeah, exactly. And how did you feel that like Jacobs was moving? Because I think we're starting to see the progression of him. He's not at 100% yet, but you can see the flashes of, just his agility and just his elusiveness coming back. What did you see with, Drake taking that pressure and those, must-have runs off of him, where he kind of was playing loose, right?
He definitely looked like he was more comfortable.
Yeah.
And I think all of, especially both Drake and Jacobs, they looked like, okay, I get it. And
yeah.
Jacobs made a couple good cuts, and I was watching, like, making sure he didn't wince or anything, and he looked fine.
Mm-hmm. And what's crazy is, I was looking back at the game, and somebody was saying something, like one of the mainstream media cats, just, about everyone who scored in the game. And it was an Alabama party this game. You had Henry Ruggs, you had Kenyon Drake, and Josh Jacobs scoring. I mean, those were all our scores for the game.
Mm-hmm. They balled out.
Yeah. And I mean, I want to go into this offense because I know that you kind of have some stuff that you'll share with us offensively. How big was it to come out and score in that opening drive this game with Henry Ruggs on that third down conversion? I think it was a 3rd and 2, and we get a 48-yard pass in the right, catch it right before the end zone, and Henry Ruggs takes it in.
Mm-hmm. Me and you talked about it. Like, we needed to get off to a quick start. Like, that was one of the keys that we had discussed. And they came right down, 5 of the first 6 plays were running plays. And so obviously the defense is going to be coming up because they're going to be thinking run, on a 3rd and 2, all of a sudden 48-yard bomb to Ruggs.
Yeah.
I like what Carr did, where he looked off the safety, looked more this way, and the guy's over here, and he had no chance of catching up.
Well, and he had that one dude turning his hips. So as soon as he turned his hips, he made that throw. And it was, that's the difference between an incompletion and then hitting it in there right, on the money as he did, because, if you see him thread the needle right between those 2 defenders, man, I mean, he had that pass dropped right in the bucket. So
it was an ugly pass too. That thing was a wobbler.
Yeah, it was. But the timing was what allowed him to get it in there, when he did. So I just want to ask, I mean, do you have any numbers that you could run through for the offense this game?
Yeah, well, Carr was 18 of 27, 341 yards, 2 touchdowns. So he was lights out. He actually had the highest QB rating for any QB in week 6. It was like 134.2 or something.
Mm-hmm.
It was just ridiculous. You had Ruggs with 3 receptions, 97 yards, a touchdown, averaging over 30 yards a catch. And he leads the league right now in yards per catch at 22.3. Waller he caught all 5 of his passes for, it was like 56 yards. Edwards had, his 51-yard bomb.
Mm-hmm.
And Renfro had his 25-yard catch that was right up the middle that if it wasn't for that dude, that would have been,
man.
He had so much daylight.
I know. And I was watching that and I was like, man, that defender played him really well because you knew Renfro was going to shift directions. I mean, that's just what he does. And he usually gets that step on people and kind of jukes them. But I mean, I feel like that guy pausing helped him to his advantage to help him make that tackle.
It definitely did. Like, it definitely helped that defender because he was probably thinking, oh my gosh, here comes this shifty little guy.
Right.
I'm about to get burned.
Right. And I thought it was crazy because I'll get back to more numbers with you here in a second, but I thought this stat was kind of crazy where on explosive plays with the top speed, you have both Henry Ruggs and Bryan Edwards in the top speed conversation with 21.15 for Bryan Edwards and 21.78 with Henry Ruggs.
Yeah, and Ruggs had another one that was lower down on the list.
Yeah, it was the one that was 21.42, which is insane, just having 2 of our wide receivers on that list. And I am, correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as like big plays for average per catch, Bryan Edwards and Henry Ruggs are both over 20. Is that right?
Bryan Edwards is just under it.
Okay.
And Ruggs is leading the league at 22.3.
I mean, you can't really ask for anything better than that. No. And, Greg Olson's probably eating that up. And, I will say there were a lot of question marks, a lot of doubt as far as what Greg Olson was calling. And I know that you probably seen this too, but a big thing that I saw that I liked what Ole did that was really advantageous to Derek Carr. And they were mentioning this when David Carr was speaking about, just the play calling was he was getting into plays so quick.
Yeah, that even Carr talked about it.
Yeah, that Carr was just like, I already got the play and I got plenty of time to kind of sift through stuff and see if I want to audible and go through it. So I think that if that in itself can keep up, it's only going to work to, being a positive for Derek Carr because as well as I do, he likes to audible at the line. He likes to have enough time and you don't have to worry about that play clock rolling down.
He wants to see what the defense is showing. So he
exactly
decide, whether or not, okay, I need to change this to a screen or I know I'm going to have single safety help over on this side. And this guy's going to be one-on-one with his DB.
And a lot of times they're disguising stuff to throw off Carr. And I think he picks up on that a lot. So I wanted to ask you this. How important is it moving forward for Greg Olson to maintain that play calling consistency as he did this game so we can get off to those faster starts? Because we know that's what had, everything to do with how we came off to this fast start. And then I'll get to the offensive line after this.
It's huge for our team because if we can get off, if he can get those plays out quick, it allows our guys to get, hey, we know in the first 5-6 seconds when we're getting up there, we've already got the play.
Yeah.
Gives him time to survey the field. Everybody can make their adjustments. Offensive line can, make their adjustments, and then Carr can roll with it. There was only a couple times I saw where he was like, where he canceled some plays, and changed it at the line. A lot of them, he was like, no, we're good, and you just see him run with it. And those were a lot of the big plays.
Yeah. And what was crazy to me is, and I think you and I had both momentarily touched on this when we were chatting, but did they not look more loose than they usually did offensively?
I think they looked more prepared.
Yeah.
Like they didn't look like, they had any questions. Like, this is our game plan. We know what we're doing.
Yeah.
We know it's not going to get changed. They came in and, opening drive, I think, said a lot. And then the balance for offense, they ran, it was like 56 total plays, and 23 of them were running plays.
Yeah. I like that a lot, man. I really do. And I know total for the game we had 426 yards and 86 rushing yards. I remember you mentioned the 340 for Carr, but I think the thing that impressed me the most wasn't it on like 18 throws?
Yeah, 18 to 27.
Holy shit. Like, dude, when did you see that? Under 20 throws and you're throwing almost 350.
Well, there's only been 2 times that they can count where a quarterback had 7 plays in a game, 7 passing plays that went for 25 yards or more. It's only happened twice that they can remember.
How many times did he have a 20-plus pass in that game?
Well, he had 7 that went for over 25.
That's ridiculous, man. If you talk about offensive efficiency, and I know Gruden was this big offensive mind and stuff, but does it ever just fall upon people's like minds where it's like maybe the complication of Gruden's offense, as good as it was at sometimes, that maybe it was just unnecessary and just simplifying it and letting the players we have at the skill positions just do their job because this is what happens?
Yeah, maybe I think that it was just too much at times.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of guys, they have problems with Gunther's defense because a lot of players have said that it's just too complicated, that there's too much to process.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes you just need to let the players play. And I mean, I think we're seeing that with our defense, and that's another discussion for a little bit later. But I wanted to ask, do you have any PFF grades for us offensively?
They didn't have very many.
Okay.
But let me see if I can, because I think I still have the window up.
Okay. So I'll give you the ones through week 6, like through 6 games. These are our top right here. So we have Derek Carr at 86.3. This is all 6 weeks. So I still want you to grab just last game. Hunter Renfrow at 76.5. You got Henry Ruggs at 74.6. Josh Jacobs 73.7, and then the lonesome lineman Colton Miller 72.8. But that's through 6 weeks.
Yeah.
But I'm really curious because I know that we were talking about some guys improving this game with their PFF grades. So go ahead and grab that for us. And while you do, we could talk about, the things that kind of went in our favor with this offensive line, switching to that power scheme.
Well, they did show that Carr is first in completions over 20 yards.
Okay.
He's first with those completions, those 18 completions that he's made, a total 603 yards.
Jeez.
And he's got 19 big-time throws. 17. That's all first in the league.
And I thought he was a quarterback that doesn't like to throw downfield, right?
Yeah. Yeah. He doesn't like that long ball, apparently.
Yeah, right.
But I did get some numbers for out of the snaps, like how many of our guys played. And Waller was outside of Carr and the offensive line. He was the next one to play the most snaps.
Okay.
He played 82% of the offensive snaps.
Oh, wow.
And then,
hey, we saw a little bit of Foster Moreau too. We didn't see a lot, but he got a key first down again. And like the thing is with these guys, because I noticed that there's some guys on the Raiders offense where they don't necessarily need to be that Ruggs, Renfrow, Waller, Drake, Jacob status, but they do play key roles. Like I was telling you, Jalen Richard got a key third down, right? Where he went on that little flat route. Carr hit him. Boom. The drive continued. We ended up scoring on that drive. Foster Moreau, same thing. That was a drive where we ended up actually getting the field goal on. Another key first down. So I just like the efficiency and the way that Greg Olsen was calling these plays to where it wasn't necessarily taking too much of a risk. It was taking what the defense gave us in the key moments where we just needed to keep the drives going. Because I think that's something that we ended up, doing a lot of, the last 2 games where we'd stall out those drives because we'd go for too much. And I think that like risk reward was really kind of backfiring on us because we were risking too much for too big of a reward when we're just like, hey, let's get a first down. Let's keep this drive going.
Definitely. Like we saw it sometimes in the previous games, obviously, where we see an open guy over here, but there's too much going on in this area for Carr to focus on him. Just like the one play that we missed because of a flag on the offensive line. I think it was the one that Leatherwood got, where instead of having Edwards in, they had Zay Jones in running Edwards route, and Zay Jones was wide open, and Carr was getting ready, and then they called the penalty.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you because I kind of wanted to go touch on the offensive line because I know that we kind of touched on the wide receivers and the running backs, and man, I think we had a hell of a game. Again, I even touched on Greg Olsen just calling a hell of a game. I mean,
he did.
What do you think happened with this game different from the last 2 with the offensive linemen that really allowed them to kind of open up the run game? And the thing is that I also want to touch on is we don't need to run as much as Gruden wanted to run because we see what happens when you run when it's there and the availability is there as far as like the positioning and the down and distance versus forcing runs and then getting those passing plays to just move the chains. So what was pivotal in this that allowed the offensive line to have the success they did?
I think a lot of it had to do with the play action. This is the most play action that they've ran they said it was a couple of years, the highest percentage.
Well, they said it jumped from 12% up to 24%.
Yeah, like we literally
just that one game.
And I think I got to give a lot of credit to Ole, Tom Cable, and Ole for calling a good game plan, keeping it balanced, keeping like, okay, I could pass here. They probably think we're gonna pass, but let's give them a run.
Yeah,
just because there's times where I'm like, did we just run? Like what?
That's what I'm saying, and just to your point, I mean, the play action was really the thing. I actually was hoping you said something because I was like, man, our play action, like the way that we used it in the scenarios and situations that we're in, it was so advantageous for us because our offense looked as explosive as we expect as a fan base with the personnel we have. So it's like, you don't have to force the run when you could do the play action and open up for the run maybe 1 or 2 plays down the line after you get that first down.
I will say that they probably shouldn't blitz Carr.
Yeah, I mean, his
because every time they
passer rating against the blitz is ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, because he either hits Ruggs, Renfro, or Edwards for a huge play. And he did it again on the last game. And it was
Henry Ruggs, right?
It was 3rd and 12. And you saw 4 guys coming at Carr, and he just threw it up, and Ruggs overpowered the DB, came down with it. Another 40-yard play.
Man, I want to see more of that. I want to see more of those Drake plays, though.
Oh, yeah.
That pass to Kenyon Drake is literally why we signed him, and that it's something that we really need to highlight the strength of his playmaking ability, because no matter how good the linebacker is, and the linebacker for the Broncos was no match for Drake. I'm not going to say he's trash because he's in the NFL and he's playing the linebacking position for a good defense.
He couldn't keep up with him.
Well, I don't think a lot of people, even the top linebackers, can keep up with Drake because, what is he, like 6'1", like 210 or 215? So, I mean, he's got a big frame on him.
But he's quick.
And he's quick. So, I mean, I think that's something that Ole will start to use more because, like you said, the Thunder and Lightning, you got Thunder, who's Josh Jacobs, and he can pass catch, but you can get more of those wide receiver routes from Kenyon Drake, and you see what happens. I didn't even know he was going to score on that play. Like, I thought it was going to be out of bounds, and he literally stayed in bounds for an extra 15 yards and literally made that play.
It was a beautiful double move where he just faked inside and went outside, and linebacker turned his hips, and he was done at that point. And
and as soon as it's the back of the helmet, right? As soon as it's the back of the helmet, like, I don't know if you saw the timing of Carr's release on that.
Oh, it was ridiculous.
Drake didn't even hit his cut, and it was just like right there, perfect. I was like,
he just looked up and was like, "Oh, thanks."
And you gotta love the rhythm that Carr has with some of these receivers, because I know that he gets a lot of shit for his lack of playmaking ability sometimes. But hey, I saw him roll out and make that sideline pass to Darren Waller when Darren Waller did toe drag swag, bro, and had that and just kept because I think that same drive was where Drake ran it in, wasn't it?
I believe, yeah. It was,
because once they moved the ball, Drake literally got it on the right side and took it right in. And I was just like, holy shit. If Derek Carr doesn't roll out, throw it to Waller.
It was either that one or that was the one that happened after Jacobs got his long screen pass play.
Yeah. I mean, either way, it led to a score, which is just one of those things where it's like, people give Carr shit for not extending plays, but it's like, hey, I think he was a lot more comfortable with the way that the plays were going. I think he liked a lot more of them, and they just played more to his strengths because, let's face it, although we want to run, we are an elite passing team. Like, we have a weapon at every position, and not only that, they can all make big plays, and they're in sync with Carr, right?
Yeah. I mean, they've shown it all season. Like, they can all ball out, where you saw Zay Jones get the game-winning catch.
Yeah, week one.
And then Renfro is Renfro.
Mm-hmm.
And Brian Edwards, he was clutch in the fourth quarter that led to the touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was clutch in this fourth quarter. He had a couple decent catches early on.
Yeah.
But then, he had that 51-yard. And I wish he would have slowed and cut back in.
Oh, man. That would have been a score.
Because the way the guy was coming, if he would have just cut back, he would have went past him, and I know he would have been in for 6.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you got to love his catch radius, too, I think, is just –
Dude, he caught it off of his chest.
I know.
The DB holding his arm down. He's like,
right?
Get off me, peasant. Get out of here.
I love that shit, man. Any last thoughts just on the offense before we switch over to defense here?
They looked good. They looked more in sync this game than I've seen them all season.
Yeah. And like I said, man, I just feel like they were loose. The plays were very advantageous to them as far as like what the players wanted to do, because it wasn't a lot of forced plays. We're like, oh, we have to run on 2 of these downs, and then we're going to throw on 3rd and long. It's like they took what the defense gave them, but they also made things happen when the defense was kind of their positioning was used against them. And, for only having 25 minutes of time of possession, I mean, we put up 34 points versus, they had 34 and a half minutes and they only put up 24, which we all know that last touchdown they scored was kind of garbage time points,
Yeah. Well, they had more time of possession. They had more plays.
Yeah.
Like they should have won the game if you look at it just on the numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
And we could have had 37 if Carlson wouldn't have missed that field goal.
I know, which was really unlike him, which, again, remember, we were talking about special teams, man. Mm-hmm. Special teams did show up with
AJ Cole was putting the ball like deep.
Dude, that guy is so underrated. I remember a guy by the name of Ray Guy who's in the Hall of Fame with the Raiders, man. And
yeah, he used to be one of our kickers. Yeah, I remember that guy.
It's just like
one of our punters. He was good.
The punters are just such an underrated position. But when you have guys like AJ Cole, who not only can direct the ball, but drop it down, on their territory, deep in their zone. I mean, it's just one of those things that really sets up the defense for being able to make plays. And, that just brings me to the defensive side of the ball, and we'll kind of get into the specifics of it. But with the loss of Jonathan Hankins, you and I were discussing somebody needed to step up because there was that gap, on the run game, which they did run over 100 yards, but I don't think it was like It was like a scattered bunches of yards.
They didn't have big plays.
Yeah, it was over the course of the game. But I mean, Damian Square, man. Yeah. Damian Square came in and stepped up. What did you feel about what the defensive front did as a whole, just to minimize those big plays on the running downs and just really keeping that pressure on Teddy Bridgewater?
Teddy looked like he was a man scared for his life back there. They were wreaking havoc on Broncos offensive line and Teddy Bridgewater. And if it wasn't for, Merrick, which I feel bad for him because, he got hurdled. If it wasn't for him getting that, then that was like their biggest play. Their biggest run play was that one.
Yeah, I saw that. Yep.
I was just like, oh, but at least, Perryman was there to get the cleanup.
Man, I think that's been literally our best defensive signing as Denzel Perryman, man. Like, that guy's a fucking bruiser. And like, not only that, he just brings a toughness to this team that between him and Abram, man, I feel like him and Abram were like cousins or something, with just the tenacity they bring when they play. And you can always see they're always the two that's all around the ball every play. Yeah. Like those two guys.
The guy that we just signed, Faison.
Man, Brandon Faison, right? And I wanted to ask about the defensive line before I kind of move levels here. So you called it with Max, Mad Max, 3-sack game.
Yeah, right? PFF says he had 5, but they only credit him with 3.
Yeah, well, because he was in on 5, but he had 3 actual, the credit for 3, like you said, and
because they gave him 1 and then they took it away, which I was like, he was in the play, like.
Yeah, I think they just wanted to kind of spread the love around, but what's crazy to me is, get this. So on Sunday, Mad Max, 12 pressures, 7 hurries, and 3 sacks. Yeah. Like, dude, just speak on it, man. Because, I mean, you were the one who said Mad Max and Nate Hobbs are going to have a game, which I think you and I both agree that Nate Hobbs just gets better every game.
He does.
But the fact of Mad Max just coming alive, and keep in mind, he was the number 1 ranked defensive end PFF-wise coming into this game with the most pressures. Not in sacks, but the most pressures. So just speak on it, man, as far as Mad Max is concerned.
Right now, he would be my defensive player of the year, just based off everything that he's doing overall. Like, the only statistic he's not leading in is sacks.
Yep.
And he's only a couple sacks behind the leader. But every other category, he is causing the most havoc on quarterbacks.
And go ahead.
And they were talking about it for Jalen Hurts coming up. They're like, he better be ready. He better be prepared because Max is coming.
And the thing I love about Mad Max is his speed, because it's so underrated and you don't see it on the field because he's so tall, that like his closing speed and his ability to keep up with fast players, you're just like, he doesn't look like he's moving that fast, but somehow he got to him in like half the steps of any other player would,
Yeah, when Bridgewater took that run out to the right side,
yeah,
Max was like right there in the play to meet him on the sideline. I'm like, dude, you took like 3 steps and you're halfway across the field. And then his wingspan is just
I mean, that's why they call him the Condor, right?
Yeah, I just got his hoodie.
So the only thing he's not first in is sacks, and you were correct with that, because I want to kind of toot your horn here as far as like just how nasty this dude is. So 11 QB hits, first in the NFL. 25 hurries, first in the NFL. 43 total pressures, first in the NFL. His pass rush grade, 91.7, first in the NFL. And his pass rush win rate, 27.6%, first in the NFL. So, I mean, that pretty much should just put the stamp as far as the validity of what you said, that this guy should be up for Defensive Player of the Year. And I just wanted your thoughts on that.
Yeah, like if you look at what he's doing, like his overall body of work right now, there's nobody better.
Yeah.
There are guys that are, flashy, they're getting the sacks, but they're not leading in those other categories.
Yeah, and I think the thing with him, which, I mean, the one thing that I will say is Bisaccia even spoke on it, is just how much he's grown since he's been with the Raiders. But I think he just has a motor second to none. And you know who he really reminds me of? And you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, is Jared Allen.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, like he screams a taller, lankier version of Jared Allen to me.
Yeah, well, Jared Allen went to Idaho State, so
so I mean,
another small school guy.
Exactly, dude. And the thing is I think with him is he's getting better in the run game, which is dangerous because his pass ability and his pass rush, like he's already been, I don't want to say superior, but that's been his strongest area. So the fact that he's equally rising with the rush defense side of it, that's scary with how much of an upside he still has, because let's just admit
he's still young.
Yeah, he's still young. It's his third year, and I was looking at
and he was hurt last year and he didn't even tell anybody.
Yeah, exactly. Didn't he have a shoulder injury that he played through?
Yeah, he had a torn labrum, the same injury that kept Abrams out for the entire year.
That's crazy. And the thing that's crazy to me is I think it was like in the last 3 years, Max Crosby's actually ranked higher than Mac. I think Max Crosby's the 3rd overall and Mac is the 5th overall for defensive end play.
Yeah.
As far as like sacks, rush, run stopping, and just overall defensive end ratings. So
then they were talking about his overall Raiders within their first 3 seasons. He's ranked number 2.
Exactly. So I mean, that should tell you everything you need to know about Mad Max. And I was kind of upset just because like
they said he'd be tied with Howie at 22 sacks if they started keeping sacks when Howie first came in.
Oh wow. Okay. That's big time, man. Howie Long that's our guy. Shouts out to Howie Long, man.
Yeah.
I still want to get his jersey. That's one of the legends I definitely need to get. And you also picked Nate Hobbs, which it was crazy because I think you saw the play when the receiver was going down that Nate Hobbs ripped the ball out of the dude's hand. I thought that was another pick. And I saw why I know it was so close. So
you saw his knee just hit and then the ball come out. I was like,
I want to ask you because, I mean, I'll speak about the 2 guys I picked after this and we'll kind of get more into the defense. But what do you see since week 1 to now as far as Nate Hobbs with his growth and his overall awareness as a playmaker?
He's getting faster. I've noticed like his thinking is definitely like you can see him processing things faster than he was like week 1, where I think with anybody, they're going to come out like, okay, this is my spot, but they don't make that reaction move where now you see him reacting every time. And if he's not making the play, he's part of the play.
Yeah.
And that shows growth and that he's catching it. And I'm scared for some of these guys next year when they have to go against him, because once this game slows down for him.
Yeah.
Because I saw what he did in college and he was hurting people.
Dude, he was a bad man. Fighting Illini.
And which their coach is under criticism right now, but
well, it was Lovie Smith at the time though.
Yeah.
Because Lovie Smith came back to the NFL, remember?
Oh yeah. Lovie Smith loved him and he has nothing but respect to say about Lovie Smith.
Exactly. And
that's even what Mike Mayock said was, he's a product of Lovie Smith. So you got to give the kid props.
Yeah, and I mean, we all know Lovie Smith was a great defensive coordinator, and I mean, just the impact that he had on the Bears when he was their coach. I mean, they had great playmakers on that team
for a long time.
Yeah, and it was like, it was a long stretch of that happening. So, I mean, dude, you hit it with Mad Max and Nate Hobbs, which I would say, Mad Max was due for a game like this because of how many pressures he had. So hats off to you for, calling that out, man. Cause, on my half, I was pissed because Darius Philon did not play. So that kind of scratched out one of my picks, but insert Damian Square right there as his replacement, essentially. I mean, he had 1 sack. So I was happy to see Damian Square come in and, make an immediate impact. And what's crazy to me is just how in sync the defensive line is, even with this new player that was brought in. It's like they didn't miss a beat. And with him and Quentin Nelson, man, like they were playing alongside each other. You would have think they would have been playing like all year together, just the way that they were getting that pass rush.
It took Solomon Thomas a while to get up to speed, but I mean, he still had that one play where he knocked the ball loose.
That's what
to get it back.
Exactly, and I'm gonna get to that a little bit later on those turnovers, man, because we definitely had 4 turnovers in this game, which was, Gus Bradley said they come in bunches, and that's what this defense is built for, is turning the ball over. And which brings me to my next guy, who I did say would have a great game, and that was Jonathan Abram, man. He not only impacted the game in a big way, came up with 3rd down stops, but he was the reason why the game ended, because he had that last pick of the game. And I want to know from you, because you know how big of a fan I am of Jonathan Abram, is what has it said to the coaching development with Ron Miles, with Jonathan Abram, from what we saw as diehard Raider fans the first 2 years, where it was really just one game from the first season, and then last year with the player development and the maturity from Jonathan Abram from the first 2 years to this year, on just how he looks like a complete different player. And his ceiling is still, I mean, he's still on the rise. Like he's at, I'd probably say maybe that lower mid range to where he's still going to ascend. So what does that say to his development so far?
He's still got a long way before he reaches his ceiling, that's for sure. But just to see how he's grown, especially from last year, where he's just, I think he was in the wrong position.
Yeah.
Way too much. And I a lot of that's part of the Gunther defense.
Fucking Gunther, man.
If you look at him now, I think where he's at, it's more suited to his skill level.
Yeah.
And having Trayvon in the back, being the cover safety, is more what he's known for. And you can see that the two of them together, they really feed off one another. And it just goes to show with Abrams, I think he's more comfortable now, and he can just be himself, but be himself controlled. He's not getting the penalties this time.
Yeah.
No late hits like he was last year. No personal fouls, none of that. He's just playing solid football.
Yeah, and I mean, the big thing that really stood out to me in this game is just the turnovers.
Yeah, when you got 4 of them, they definitely stand out.
Well, and just the type of turnovers they were. Some of them were from pressures. Some of them were being in the right position. And some of them were just reading the plays, Like we saw 3 different types of turnovers out of the 4 that happened, because as what you mentioned, Solomon, man, he literally went in and punched that ball out. We got the ball back, right? And you have the Trayvon Merrick interception deep. When we created the pressure, it was overthrown. Merrick came in and got that. Brandon Faison, it was a 4th down. We pressured him. He had to throw it in that tight window, went off the dude's tips of his fingers. Faison's there, gets the interception. And then Abram, he read that play and was in the position to make that play. Like he made that play. And, it speaks to just the instincts and the defense that Gus Bradley runs, to where it allows these players to make plays based on their abilities to not only read the defense, but play off of that front that we have that's causing all these pressures, led by Yannick and Mad Max and that, defensive tackle position up front. And I just wanted to ask you, because, we've been on a tear. I mean, for the whole season, it looks like we're already at 16 sacks. We got Max Crosby at 5, Solomon Thomas 2.5, Quentin Jefferson at 2, Philon at 2, Ngakoue at 2, Nassibet at 1.5, Damian Square has a 0.5, and then Littleton has a 0.5, which, I mean, those are just assists on sacks. But And the fumble recoveries, we got 3 total, 2 for Perryman, which Perryman picked up that Solomon Thomas fumble that he punched out. And then
right place, right time.
Yeah, Philon another one. So I just want to ask you, I mean, because I have a player that I have in mind I'm going to ask about after this, but what does that tell you about the difference in Gunther running his defense and the players being lost, and Gus simplifying this defense and allowing those playmakers just to go out there and play ball? How different the outcomes could be in this game?
Oh, it's huge. Like, there's no way we would be where we are if we were still using Gunther's defense. These guys, they get to play reactive football where they see, okay, this is the play, I'm going. And they know that if they're gone, the guy behind them or the guy to the left or right is going to be right there with them, because they're reading the play rather than trying to figure out where they need to be in a scheme that wasn't really beneficial to the team.
Exactly. And I think the big thing is what you brought up is just the ability for the players just to go out there and do what they do. And I think the overall talent of this group has elevated as well, because not only do they trust the person to the right and left, but they all kind of understand their role. And, it's really paid huge dividends. I mean, look at our turnovers. Look at where we are in sacks. The whole year last year, we had 16. Through 6 weeks, we have 16 sacks. And this is blitzing on 9% of the time. I think we have a blitz rate of around 9%, which is just
we don't blitz.
Yeah, we don't blitz at all. And now I want to ask you, because, I've been pumping this dude up, and I even posted today on Twitter about him being a potential starter. How big was it poaching Brandon what was it, Faison? Yeah, off of the Chargers practice squad, and he's out there playing like he's a starter. I mean, how big is this?
He's another Gus Bradley guy.
But
so he comes in and he's a plug and play.
But Trayvon Mullen's out, and I don't even think we're missing a beat without him.
No, he looked like what Trayvon has done up until he got hurt.
Right.
He was in there making plays. Like when he caught that interception, at first I had to look at the number to make sure. Then I was like, oh, that's the new guy.
Yeah.
Dang. And then he put that hit on that one receiver and knocked the ball loose.
Oh yeah, I loved it, dude. I loved it.
That guy was hurting when he got up. He was trying not to show it, but he was hurting. I'm like, that dude's a Raider, like legit.
And the thing that's so crazy is, like, with Bisaccia coaching this team, which shouts out to Rich Bisaccia, man, for coming in and just kind of allowing the coaches that remain in their positions just to do what they do and just kind of give them the input just to kind of see what the best direction is for this team. Because, at the end of the day, I mean, he's a special teams coordinator, but he interacts with all players. So I think the delegation of, like, hey, everyone's going to remain where they are. I'll ask for your guys' input and you can kind of help me. And he's not bigger than anyone on the team, which I think is huge for the Raiders organization with Bisaccia. And, hashtag Bisaccia Mafia, man, because that dude definitely does. You know what I'm saying? Like, that dude does look like he could be like a Don in a mafia family, bro.
The ones that kill me are the one, all the memes now with him, where they put him on the rock.
Yeah, and Goldberg too. Yeah, Goldberg too, man.
Ridiculous. Cracks me up.
But
he seems like a very low-key, down-to-earth dude.
Yeah.
And he was talking to the players. You didn't see him over there like screaming, yelling a lot. He was just talking to the players. Like when Ruggs made that catch and he came back over, they didn't show it, but they had people with cameras that were showing it. And he just kind of grabs him and was like, "You did good."
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, man, is he's just one of those guys who I think he has a good temperament for this organization, because he's going to allow players to be who they be. And he's not going to pretty much get them out of character, which I'm not saying Gruden did that, but you need people to hold you accountable, but allow you to be who you are, because that only opens up more possibilities of who you can become. I know I kind of got a little philosophical on that, but the thing that I was trying to make was, the point was, with Gus Bradley, the impact he's had on this defense. Brandon Faison, man, like, I think with getting Trayvon Mullen back at some point, and I don't know if he's going to come off the IR as soon as he's back, and start practicing and we're activate him. But how good does it feel being a Raider fan, knowing that in your secondary, we just signed Desmond Trufant as a backup, and we have Brandon Faison, who we poached from the Chargers practice squad, who came in and he already has a pick. How does that make you feel being a Raider fan and just knowing that?
Oh, it makes me feel good because he had some big plays. Obviously the interception was one. The pass breakup, the wide receiver collision that caused a guy to lose the ball, and plus he was in a lot of the plays.
Yeah,
he was active. He was all over the place. He didn't look like he was just a new guy trying to figure out a scheme. He looked like he knew what he was doing, and he was just going out and making things happen.
Dude, and the thing that's great about him is, so Trayvon Mullen is like 6'3", like 200 pounds, right? Somewhere around there. Brandon Faison is 6'2", 210. So, you're essentially getting another Trayvon Mullen, somebody who knows the Gus Bradley system, and he's stepping in and already making an impact. And it's got to put the other guys on notice, right? If you're in that secondary group, now Casey Hayward, it's funny because I saw something about Jonathan Abram saying you get him, old man, when he was because he's ranked so high in PFF. And I know he's busting right now. Yeah, he's busting his balls, but they know Casey Hayward is kind of like that Yoda, you know what I'm saying, of the back. And these young guys, Brandon Faison is what, like 25, I think, right?
He's a young dude. Yeah, he's not old.
So you have him, you have Abram, you have Hobbs, and then just with the backups too. Amik Robertson is kind of out of it now with Faison stepping up. You and I both discussed it with that differential in height. You have somebody who's 5'8" versus somebody who's 6'2", and now you have ball skills, awareness, and just playmaking ability coming out of Brandon Faison. How do you feel about the secondary group going into Philadelphia? Because that they have some young playmakers, and I know we'll talk about that next show, but how good do you feel with the secondary unit now with Desmond Trufant coming in? We just signed him today, and then Brandon Faison, and then, you have Hobbs, Abram, Casey Hayward moving forward, knowing we're going to get Trayvon Mullen back.
You got to feel good, man. You have to feel good about, you see what these guys did this past week. We bring in a new guy. We brought in two new guys, one on the D line and then one out in the DBs, and they both showed up and performed. They both made an immediate impact.
Sack, interception.
You can't ask for more. We saw what happened to Amik. He got burned on that play.
There were two plays. There were two key plays. It was one third down play, and it was the one touchdown. And I think Gus Brown was like, "I've seen enough."
Yeah, and he was like, "Faison, you go get him." And he did. He went out and he performed, and that's all we can ask for. So I'm excited to see what these guys are going to do to Philly when Philly has to come to Allegiant Stadium and go against our guys and our fans. After they just came off of a big win, they just got whooped up on.
Yep.
They did make it look like a game at the end where it was 28-20. But,
what, the Eagles last game?
Yeah.
Yeah, but we knew that game. They were playing from behind. What was it? 20. It was like 28-7, I think, right?
Yeah. It was 20-7 or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
21-7 or something.
Yeah, 21-7 at halftime. And they ended up scoring another touchdown, and then Philly was playing down the whole time. And to be honest with you, I don't think Tampa Bay's secondary is as good as ours. They're not. They may have a little bit better of a linebacking core, but they still haven't had Levante David. But at the same time, our secondary is better, and we have at least the same front four as them.
Well, they've given up big plays to receivers
because they're old, man. I'm not trying to be a dick, but they're old for who's out there because they're depleted. Now, they don't have some of their young guys.
Yeah, they're so depleted.
Yeah. But, if they could do that, that gives me confidence, like you said, with the players we have and the secondary moving forward. I just want to speak on it a little bit because I know it just happened today, and, I want to continue discussing the game. But what kind of role do you see Desmond Trufant having with this defense? Because we all know, man, the guy has a knack for finding the ball, and he's a good playmaker.
He does.
And yes, he is. What, he's in his 9th year now. Yeah. But I mean, you throw him in this as a rotational guy, like if that's not a come up right there, I don't know what is. Oh, yeah. What do you see his role in this defense?
I think he's another one of those guys like we brought in like Casey Hayward. Biggest difference is, Hayward obviously understands the defense, but he's a guy that can come in and make an immediate impact because he understands the game.
Yeah.
And, he's very athletic. Yeah, he's in his 9th year, but Casey Hayward's like in his 9th year or something, 10th year, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And the dude's still performing at
I think they're the same age. They're both 31. Yeah. So they very well could be the same year. I don't know because I didn't check it out, but
I think a lot of it has to do with how you condition your body. Because, Charles Woodson, 39 years old, went to the Pro Bowl his last year in the league.
Dude, he balled out his last year. Man.
Yeah, he had like
the Raiders,
6 or 7 interceptions his last year.
All I know is he's the only guy to pick off Peyton Manning twice.
Yeah.
If that doesn't tell you something, bro, about like his knack for just finding the ball and playmaking ability, it's just like, I wanted to mention something to you though, because I know that the defense has been balling out, and the crazy thing right now. So teams in the playoff hunt right now, we're actually the 6th seed in the AFC. But there's a 5-way tie between 2nd to 6th seed with the Chargers, Tennessee, Buffalo, Cincinnati, and us. And Baltimore is up top, and Denver is number 7. So with the way that this defense is being played right now, and just the upward ticking arrow, how critical is it now that we had our injuries kind of in the beginning of the year, and we have nothing but people coming back like Trayvon Mullen, Nicholas Morrow, Javen White? Like, how do you feel as not only a diehard Raider fan, but if you're a coach on this organization on the defense, how do you feel?
Oh, you got to be licking your chops knowing that you're about to get some of your big playmakers back, because we all saw what Javen White did in preseason.
Yeah.
I mean, dude was balling out. Like, it was preseason, it was Nate Hobbs and Javen White. Those guys were owning it.
And they're balls of energy too. So it's like,
yeah. So, I mean, we get him back, and then, I think he's projected to come back quicker than Morrow. Mm-hmm. So we get him back in the rotation. He'll probably take away some snaps from Kwiatkowski and, some of these other guys that just haven't quite performed. And you get him out there with Perryman and a couple of those other guys.
Yeah. Man. I mean, and to your point, I mean, Javen White, what he did in preseason with Nate Hobbs, that's a young guy who's been consistently like on the upward swing, finally makes the team. Well, he was projected to make the team. We know he was going to with his playmaking ability in preseason, but
they kept him for a reason.
Well, and you get him with KJ Wright and Denzel Perryman, and he's that young guy in the pack there, and they're coaching him up. I mean, there's no telling what he can turn into, because we know Nicholas Morrow, when he comes back, like Nicholas Morrow is a guy on the Raiders that we are missing right now, because I think that linebacking play steps up even more if he's inserted in there. But like, Manti, what you said, Javen White, like, how excited is it going to be just to have him back, Trayvon Mullen, back in that lineup?
It's going to be insane for our guys. Man, it's going to be so insane. And people are going to have to prepare for like all of them.
Exactly.
And they're not going to be like, okay, we got to watch out for where Perryman's at so we don't run on his side or whatnot. Or they're going to be like, oh, well, crap, they got, Morrow over here in the middle. You got Perryman on this side. You got Javen White on this side, who's like really fast for a linebacker.
4-4, man. And he's going to take those snaps away from KJ Wright on those passing plays, because he can cover those guys, those quick guys, those bigger guys. Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, he's around 6'4".
Yeah, he's
a
big dude.
Yeah, he's big and lean, but I mean, dude, he was a defensive end who got converted to a linebacker. So I mean, it's just kind of crazy to me, just the trajectory of like what we have right now.
We still got some young guys that that we're developing, like Divine Diablo.
Exactly.
Who, they said he's probably going to be a little bit of a project because they want to move him around.
Of course.
And, it's going to be interesting to see, once he gets the scheme and they start using him more, because I've noticed, they haven't been using him a lot.
Yeah.
He's been in special teams.
And I'm really waiting for the arrival of Malcolm Kuntz, man, because I really like that pick. And I know that he's kind of the guy that they were projecting to like take over Yannick Ngakwe's role kind of down the road. Once Yannick has his contract come up, I mean, I can almost guarantee we're going to re-sign Yannick because I think it would just be foolish to let him walk after 2 years, especially with him and Max. Like once they see what happens at the end of 17 games in this season with those two, because I mean, Yannick is still, I think, in the top 10 for defensive ends as far as pressures and so on.
Oh yeah, he's up there.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just the arrow is pointing up for this defense, and just from what we saw this weekend, man, it's like I think we may have the beginning of a full encompassing team with all three phases, because special teams, we know Bisaccia, that's going to be a point of emphasis for him being the special teams coach. But after what we saw from the offense and from this defense, man, like where do you see us with the position numbers that I mentioned with Baltimore, LA, Tennessee, Buffalo, Cincinnati, us, and Denver, and there's like a 5-way tie right there, 4-2. What do you see the trajectory of where the possibility of where Las Vegas could end up in the AFC?
They could, if they keep playing like they did against the Broncos, we could easily get up there to the 3rd seed.
Yeah,
because I think when we play the Chargers again later in the season, we're going to beat them.
It's going to be a lot different, I'll tell you that, because the Baltimore Ravens might have gave the blueprint on how to beat the Chargers this past weekend.
Yeah. And I think, obviously when we play the Broncos again, we're going to beat them. We still haven't played the Chiefs. And the way the Chiefs are playing, their defense is almost like what ours was last year, where it's like unless you score 40 points on them, that they're going to come back.
No, you're right. They are what we were last year, because I think they're 31st or 32nd defensively. And as great as Patrick Mahomes is, man, if you stop them, they're not going to be able to withstand, where they actually stop our offense, because they have so many holes in that defense. It's just like, okay, we can literally throw on this team all day. If we can't run on them, we're going to throw on them all day, because they don't have anyone to match up with us. And
exactly,
there's no one. I'm sorry. Like if you run down that roster on defense for Kansas City, I'm not scared. Like we're imposing our will on them.
Yeah, like they their offense is still good, obviously, but they got nobody that can stop anybody on defense.
Yeah. And you know what I was going to ask you, because I know we're kind of hearing the circulation of a certain name on offense for offensive linemen. So I know that we lost Jimmy Morrissey to the Houston Texans. They signed him off our practice squad. And, we just signed Desmond Trufant, key cornerback addition, who's a great talent, who's going to be a backup player and depth piece. But DJ Fluker, there's circulations of that name being a potential signing that they don't know right now if it's going to be the practice squad or the active roster. I mean, what kind of impact do you see him playing and maybe getting in this offensive line starting rotation?
One, he's got experience, which we need. Two, he's a massive, massive individual.
Yeah.
So, he could be just that fire starter that the offensive line needs. That will help kick off, the running game, where he gets in there with his big body, starts pushing people back, allowing the run game to open up a little bit.
Yeah.
You never know. Like put him over on, I think he played mostly right tackle and right guard.
Yeah. So it has him listed as a guard, but let me see here real quick, just because I don't want to speak too soon. Yeah, he's an offensive tackle. So, I mean, if you're looking at that for him on his position. So he's 6'5" and he's 350, right?
Yeah, he's one of those guys you want to bring in there for the run game.
He's one of those guys who will probably, if I'm not mistaken, probably play for Brandon Parker.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we're solidified at the left tackle position. And if the names in the Twitter space that, you know, both you and I had seen circulating for that come about, I mean, dude, we're looking at a very, very favorable, you know, offense coming up if we solidify that right tackle position. Because at the end of the day, that's kind of where our real big hole is. Because I need you to drop the PFF grade for Alex Leatherwood, man. Because I mean, the man deserves some love because he's been terrible. But this is what his second game at guard, right?
Yeah, it was over 62%.
I mean, come on, dude. Like you got to show him some love because, you know, the guy took enough of a verbal lashing from the media and all the critics at right tackle. So we got him in at right guard. And I mean, the dude stepped up.
He looks more comfortable at right guard.
Exactly.
I think it's a more natural position just for him. You know, does he have the athleticism to do right tackle? Yes, but I don't think he has the mentality to be a good right tackle right now.
Yeah, and I don't think his footwork, like I think you mentioned it last show. I don't think his footwork is where it needs to be for a right tackle. As far as, you know, when you're a veteran in that right tackle position, this is all kind of like a reflex to you. It's not like you thinking on what your steps need to be in order to get in the position for your body, you know, to not get blown by. It's more of just a reflex once you play that tackle position for so long. And to your point, I mean, you saw him on that screen, right, with Jacobs?
Yeah.
He blasted some dude, and there was a huge hole. So, like, yeah, I was happy for him because he's a great dude. Like, if you look at his accomplishments in college and just, like, when he speaks, he's a very, like, well-mannered, quiet dude. And I just hate how the media rips him up because it's like, it's not fucking his fault he got picked where he did, right? Like, nobody controls that except for the coaches, but allow him to thrive within the system, and I think we'll get everything we want out of him.
Yeah, exactly. And some people are like, oh, you're going to ruin him, putting him at right guard. And like, the dude's thriving right now. Like, I want to see what he's going to do this next game.
Yeah, it's like, are we? Because from everything you and I have both seen, it's only been up since the first, like, yes, it's only 2 games, but I mean, his right tackle play, like, it was up and down. And this is like, it's slowly, steadily, like, kind of going on the upswing where it's like, hey, we may be onto something here. And if Fluker plays right tackle, what do you think that brings to this offense as far as with Derek Carr and his ability to make those plays downfield?
Well, and it gives him more time because, you know, Fluker's a big individual. He's got the experience on that side because I think I read somewhere where it said he primarily played right guard and right tackle. You know, he's moved to the left side, but majority of his snaps has been on the right side, which you give Carr, you know, an extra half a second to allow Ruggs to get further down the field where he doesn't feel any pressure. Carr can step into that throw and hit him in stride, you know, where Ruggs doesn't have to slow down at all. It's just there.
Yeah.
And then in the run game, it actually showed that our biggest running plays came on the right side between Brandon Parker and Leatherwood. You know, if you look at the touchdowns for Jacobs and the one for Drake, they both came on the right side.
Yep. Yeah, so
our early runs in the game were on the right side.
I mean, it's exciting, man, if we do end up, you know, signing him, because I remember a couple shows back, Anthony was like, he wasn't crucifying me, but he was ripping me a new one about, oh, DJ Fluker's so old and this and that. But I'm like, dude, the guy is a right tackle and he's a big body and he brings veteran experience. Like, I would much rather have him than a young right tackle who's inexperienced and doesn't have like a good resume at all, like not even average at best. Because, you know, if DJ Fluker is average at best, that's great. That's literally eons ahead of where we're at right now. So, I mean, it's like, to your point, you bring DJ Fluker in there, he's a big body, he has experience, and we get Richie Incognito back, you know,
I think he's
after the bye week.
After the bye.
So what is that? Is that week 9 or 10? I think it's
week 10. Because we got.
I think it's week 9. I think it's week 9, right?
Yeah, because we got Philly, the Giants, and then.
Oh, Philly Giants bye week. I thought it was Philly bye week, then the Giants. No, or is it Philly Giants bye week and then KC? Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's Philly, the Giants, our bye week, and then KC because we have our bye week in week 9.
Yeah, so it'll be good.
Confirm that. Yeah, confirm that real quick.
I was going to. I want to double check because I think we have one game and then we have KC because they didn't screw us on playing KC after the bye week.
Yeah, right. I can't stand that shit when they do that.
But I'll check here.
So just want to let everyone know, man, make sure that you like, subscribe, and share these videos, man, of our podcast, man. I got special guest Rick here on the podcast, man. We're just going through the post-game reaction to the victory over the Denver Broncos, where we traveled to Denver and whooped that ass. We're just wrapping things up here. He's just going to confirm that real quick. And we'll kind of give our end sentiments and get this thing going here.
Yeah, Eagles, Giants, and then our bye week.
And then we play KC.
Yeah.
It's at Arrowhead, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
yes.
It's better than them coming off their bye week and us having to play them. So
hey, listen, we very well could go into the bye week at 6-2.
Yeah.
It's very possible, and it's something that we need to strive for because, listen, man, I know you've heard it all week as well, but these guys love Rich Bisaccia. They're rallying behind him. He is, I know it's cliche to say, but he's a player's coach. And I think Josh Jacobs said it in the post-game reaction, when they had him going back in the tunnel. And they said, hey, listen, man, we don't care really who's coaching this team. We play for each other as the players. Mm-hmm. And we just happen to have Rich Bisaccia, who's a great coach, who we will stand behind. And, I think they really are in this thing, man. So I think as bad as the Gruden just poison was that came out, I think it's brought the team together, and we may be in the making of watching something special here, man. What do you think?
I believe it, man. I think the guys really like Rich just because he's very personable, he's a very people-y person.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, he's been in the league a long time.
Yeah.
It's like somebody said that knew him when he was in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
He's been waiting for his time to be a head coach.
Yeah.
And this is his chance to show us and everybody else that he can do it.
And listen, man, he's auditioning for a head coach position. So,
mm-hmm.
If he brings this team to the playoffs, it's going to be hard for them to say no. I mean, he'll probably still have to interview for the position. But at the end of the day, everyone stays in place. Your O-line coaches, your defensive coaches, your offensive coaches. I mean, how great would that be, right? Bring in just new special teams coach maybe at the most, right?
Well, he's got his assistant that he said would, take over because he said he's going to try to do it for, the next couple of weeks, see how he can handle it, along with all the head coaching duties.
Yeah.
He goes, if I can't, he goes, then he's going to take over and I'll just kind of assist here and there when need be.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll wrap up our final thoughts here. I just want to give a quick shout out to Arizona Raidernation. They were in the house at Riot House last Sunday. Really showed a lot of love, took some pictures, some videos. I posted on my Facebook, but I can't get it over to Twitter. So, it is what it is. But hey, we had a good time, man. Had a couple of friends there, and like I said, man, Riot House is the place. If you're in Arizona, in Old Town Scottsdale, man, it's a Raider bar on Sundays, man. So Rick, if you ever come out to Arizona, man, definitely got to make an appearance there because, dude, it was definitely fun, man.
I saw the pictures on your social media.
Yeah, it is. It's
looked
fun,
like
man.
You guys were having a blast.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So just want to get your kind of thoughts here just to wrap things up, man. Just the overall play, just like some positive takeaways and maybe some things we may need to just kind of pay more attention to going into, our next game with Philly, and I know we're not going to get into like any specifics, but just some things that we could improve upon moving forward.
I still think we had too many penalties. We had one penalty on Colton Miller, another one on Leatherwood that, cost us on a couple drives.
Mm-hmm.
Basically we left points on the board that if we would have had, the game wouldn't have looked as close as it did score-wise, because from start to finish, it didn't look like we were losing that game.
Yeah. I mean, we dominated that game.
Yeah, and as far
the
as
score doesn't tell the whole story.
No, it doesn't. And defensively, you can't really do much better than that. 4 turnovers, 5 sacks. Teddy Bridgewater looked like he was running for his life. Like he had just stole something, and everybody was after him.
Yeah.
And so our special teams, they did well. So it's going to be good to see us going back home. And what I want to see is there not be a letdown from the last game, where our guys can maintain some consistency and keep it going into this week.
Yeah.
And, I know we'll talk more about that later on.
Yep.
But, that's the things that I want to see for our guys.
Yeah. And I mean, I agree with you with the defense, but there's just one facet of the defense that I really want to hone in on. And that's allowing the third down conversions and third and long situations. It was frustrating at moments in that game on how they allowed drives to continue that me and you both know that they should have stopped them, There was some where it's like third and 14 and third and 13 and they're converting and we're just like, come on, you guys were in position. I know that was probably because they were getting tired, but that's kind of when you step up and then you get those breathers, once your punting team comes on or your punt return team comes on and, you're getting the ball back to the offense. So it's just, that's one point of emphasis I really want to make sure that we really focus on and just tightening things up, against the run. Because there was the runs to the outside is what it really kills us. Our outside contained defensively is something that we really need to put a point of emphasis on, because I saw it a lot in that game where there was like that outside contain was just, it wasn't there. Like they allowed plays to continue and drives to keep going with allowing those guys getting outside them. And offensively, man, I feel like you said, the penalties, just dumb penalties and, certain times when it's like they stall out drives or they go for a field goal when they could get that touchdown and, make that point spread even bigger, as far as the gap between the two. So those are just really the things that I'd like to see moving forward. And, man, I think overall we did great. It was a great performance. It was a full team effort. And like you said, I want to see that consistency, maintaining that energy, moving into that next game, because Philly's not going to be an easy task with Jalen Hurts, but we can't sleep on him either. So.
No, that's definitely true. We can't sleep on them. They're a good team. Obviously they're. What the fuck just happened? My screen just went black on my computer.
No, you're still with us, man. So,
I think their score doesn't really, or their win-loss record doesn't show the talent that they have, because they do have some very talented players.
Mm-hmm.
And you can never take that away from them, and we can't sleep on them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would just say, man, with everything that's been said, I definitely appreciate you being on the show again, man. I know we got another episode here with you. Again, I got special guest Rick on here on the Rican Brothers Raidernation podcast. Just wrapping up episode 12, where we came away victorious traveling to Denver, 34-24 in the Bisaccia era, hashtag Bisaccia Mafia. And I just want to say, please like, subscribe, and share with all the Raider Nation. Like I say every time, man, we just want to be more involved with the Raider Nation community. Shouts out to Arizona Raider Nation, man, for the love this weekend. And, yeah, man, let's go get Philly, and y'all be easy.
One win at a time, man.
Let's go 1-0 every